Welcome to the first Drakos Dottir podcast. Through reenactment and crafting, I've met so many amazing people. I just have to share them with you. This week, from the workshop,
a little altar area, so I've got feathers and little bits and bobs I've collected from the woods.
A leg wrap finds top 10. At number 7, it's the Brits with purple lichen dyed leg wrap fragments found at York and London. This week's compelling chronicle. A chat with Lewis Kirkbride, who has raised over £24,000 for Man Health charity, walking from Stamford Bridge to Hastings in full armour, and a couple of reenactment mates and myself joined him for a short-ish stretch of his journey.
I needed a challenge. I needed something that spoke about the burden of mental health problems. I was comparing that to the weight of armour throughout the walk.
In this week's Meet the Maker, and I have a couple of moments with Elizabeth, the wild wool shepherdess. I think I found a sister from another mister.
Just something where you're practicing traditional crafts, you're living very kind of originally, and you're also having women and bringing them back to their heritage as well. And then they'll never leave, and we'll build a massive community. It'll just grow, and we'll take over the world. I'm in!
And in my first Contemplation Corner, Adam explains Ostara, the spring equinox, and offers advice on how to use this time to balance yourself.
Boudica would let loose a hare before battle in the goddess Andred's name, and would divine and plan how to do battle depending on the course that this hare went.
All links to guests and my investigations will be available in the podcast description. First, a mini tour of the workshop. What's occurring from the workshop? All right.
Stunning this morning. So I thought I'd take you on a tour of the workshop. So outside my workshop, where I'm standing now, I've got a little patio surrounded by silver birch trees, all skinny, pointing up. Directly in front of me is an apple tree with all our bird feed hanging off it. So we've got half coconuts filled with fat and seeds. We've got seeds hanging, peanuts, and there's a bird table there as well. So I can sit on my wee patio looking out in the sun to the woods, listen to the birds and watch them as well. I mean, it's a bit nice, isn't it? So looking at my workshop itself, it's an old school building. It was taken from some primary school site. They were going to knock it down, and what the guys have done is put double doors on the front, and they've taken all the windows out, so it's all completely panelled with wood all the way back. And on the inside they've done it looks Tudoresque. It's all white walled with dark brown panelled squares all over it, all over the roof and the sides. That's a bit tasty. So when I first took over this workshop in August 2020, so not too long ago, I thought, well, I need some furniture and shelving and things to stack stuff and store stuff in. So I just looked on Facebook Marketplace for free stuff in the local area, and I think it's quite nicely fitting that I used to work in a school, and now my workshop is an ex-school building, and I actually have some shelving units and cupboards from a school and a desk. So that's really nice. It does make me feel a little bit like, it is a little strange staring at things that you've stared at in a school setting. So my workshop's divided into 2 zones. We've got the first zone is just as you step in directly, and I've got cardboard and stuff on the floor, the wooden floor, because of all the mud and things from it just being, you know, wintry. And this is my wood zone, and my tools and natural dyeing stuff is all here. And I've got 2 big shelving racks like you would have in a garage. Then you step a few steps forwards and you come into the textile zone. So just trying to keep it separate. And I have built 3 units out of scavenged wood from people's sheds, and no, I didn't literally nick them. I've made them big enough to take the big plastic boxes. So I've got to have a plastic box because I've got to see what's in it. So even though I write on the front what's in it, it's nice to see, so I don't have to go rummaging about. And also it's nice to have shelves to put them on, so that if you want the bottom box, you haven't got to take all of them off. So yeah, I've just sorted all that out. A little altar area, so I've got feathers and little bits and bobs I've collected from the woods. And the sun is now streaming in. I think I do face south because in the summer that gets the sun a lot, and it's just gorgeous. So yeah, there's a little workshop tour. I don't know how I'd ever fit back into the loft now or the end shed at mum and dad's. So I think it's time to get on with something now.
So, leg wraps, yeah. It seems they were woven for purpose. I did have an archaeological source from mainland Europe, which was of leg wraps cut from a piece of cloth, I think, and sewn together. So if anyone can point me in that direction, I'd be grateful. Otherwise, the sources we have point to woven for purpose. So I thought, I weave things. I wonder if I can. In fact, thinking I wonder if I can is how I ended up with a workshop full of projects. You know what I'm talking about. So the answer became, yes, I can tablet weave some leg wraps. But for such a long length and width, you would need so many tablets. So I think it's time to invest in a tabletop rigid heddle loom. And now, Jen's leg wrap finds top 10. In at number 10, we have leg wraps predate the Romans. That's probably why they didn't need to wear trousers. At number 9, do you work from the bottom up or top down? It's not a chalk ice. How to wrap your winnegas. At number 8, are you tabby weave, chevron, diamond twill or lozenge? At number 7, it's the Brits with purple lichen dyed leg wrap fragments found at York and London. A new entry at number 6, Wicklebander. And at number 5, these aren't any ordinary leg wraps. These give it a rest. At number 4, we're averaging 7 to 10 centimetres wide, 2.5 to 3.5 metres long. It's a triple threat Magi at number 3 in an illustration from an Anglo-Saxon manuscript, tassels, garters. Oh yeah. Coming in at number 2, a high entry for Burqa binding. Yes, it's a pair of bronze hooks from Greyfine BJ 903, that old hit. And at number 1, because I can and because it references weaving, finished tablet woven garters with metal coiled wire ends. Ooh la la. Compelling Chronicle. I'm joined now by Lewis Kirkbride, who has recreated the epic walk that Harold's men did from Stamford Bridge to the Battle of Hastings. Hello, Lewis.
Hello, Jenny.
And I had the pleasure of meeting you in Peterborough stretch of your walk as well, which was a little bit drizzly and rainy, but hey.
15 miles of rain that comes in upwards, I think that was. So,
it was sold to me as 10 miles, but hey, we won't.
I'm still blaming the app for that. I'm still blaming modern technology for these problems. I think Harold knew the real distance.
And the cavalry turned up as well that day, so it really felt like some kind of epic thing was going on, that you were on this mission and I was just a small part of it. So how did you get the idea for doing the battle walk?
It goes back to my own personal story. I had my own struggles with mental health for a while, and it was actually reenactment and fighting that got me through that. Issues were close to home. I couldn't really talk to family about them. And my friends were all reenactors, and I realized that actually, if I didn't have the fighting, I would have really struggled. And through working in the charity sector, I came across this organization, Man Health, one day, and just thought, you know what, the offering that they have, this sort of peer support, very simple, easy, men focused, but an easy way for people to sort of take the first step and start talking about their issues. I just thought it was brilliant. And I felt quite inspired to do something to fundraise for them. I thought they needed a push. They needed to reach more guys. And on reflection, it was the reenactment that actually got me through. And I wished I'd known about Man Health earlier. And I just put the two things together, the mental health and the reenactment. Thought I needed a challenge. I needed something that spoke about the burden of mental health problems. I was comparing that to the weight of armor throughout the walk. I needed something about the sort of desperation and the, Harold's March being such a physical challenge, but also quite a feat of leadership and keeping his men together and motivating them and keeping going with threats on all sides. I think it just seemed like a perfect fit. I just had this light bulb moment, and it all came from there, really. The more I thought about it, the more it made perfect sense.
So it's interesting you make the link between reenactment and mental health. I've had several discussions with a range of reenactors from different groups about how that escapism at the weekend and being with a different group of people, living maybe a simpler life for the weekend, portraying maybe different aspects of things of yourself, that just alleviates things.
In my case, it's actually an escape as well from from normality. Yeah, there's something about the simplicity of it. You feel more connected, I think, to the world when it's a simpler lifestyle. I'm lucky in that the group that I do is also very combat focused, and that was what drew me into the hobby in the first place. So for me, I've got the physical exercise part of it as well, and we have a very trusting relationship with each other because our combat's quite full on. And to some extent, when you're facing somebody down and they've got a sword swinging towards your face, it's almost like meditation. Everything else goes out of your brain. There's just you and him and those weapons, because you can't afford to be distracted by anything else.
So I first found out about you and your battle walk because you put a plea out for equipment and kits and things to help you on the battle walk. So you walked in donated gear.
Almost exclusively. I don't think I bought a single thing. What I wasn't expecting was like an absolute avalanche of leg wraps and bags and cloaks and shirts and undershirts and brays and everything I might need. Even to the point where there was armor donated and which isn't no small thing. So I sort of, when I envisaged the walk, I imagined it proving some points about people and about how kind people can be when you just reach out and ask. I wanted to show actually the reenactment world is very close-knit and is very kind and supportive. And boy, did they deliver. That plea went out on Facebook to about 2 nationwide groups, memberships of, 1,000 people on each group, something like that. And I would say it was within 3 weeks, I had about 8 parcels arrive, different bits of kit.
Oh, it's amazing. That's awesome.
I mean, I owe huge thanks to you as well for the discovery of leg wraps. That, for me,
leg wraps, yes.
It was one of the early bits of kit that came along, and I sort of knew about them a bit, but my era for reenactment is a bit later, so we're not allowed to wear them in shows. So it's only if I'm playing with another group that I get to wear them normally. So they were quite a revelation, and they turned into one of my absolute essential bits of kit for walking, to the extent that I still wear them now when I'm walking in modern gear out and about on the hills.
This is good to know. Yes. So what we're saying is that I should be stocking Black's outdoor things with
Definitely.
leg wraps.
Yeah. As long as people do it right, because it distresses me when I see people's wraps coming apart.
You'll have to do a tutorial video, Lewis, and this is how it's done.
Point of sale videos like those JML things in.
Do the voice, though. You'd have to do the voice.
The new Drakos Dottir leg wraps for 2020.
That'll do. Nice. Every day at 12:05, Lewis, you had spear cam on your battle walk. So that was a chance for you to do a live video from where you were, as we could follow you on Facebook, tracking you as you made your way down south.
Hello, it's Lewis, live at 12:05 on spear cam for the 1066 battle walk. It's been an interesting few days, a couple of really long slogs. It's been hot, it's been cold, it's been dry, it's been wet, it's been lonely, it's been busy, so all sorts going on. I'm now well into Essex, and you can probably hear that background noise. That's the M25. You can hear it from absolutely miles away. So sometimes the UK's biggest car park, sometimes spear cam menace. I hope you can hear me okay. Loads and loads of interesting conversations. Thanks to Lisa for all your help over the last couple of days, Paul and David at Man Health too, and lots of interesting reflection. I'm now 2 weeks into this walk, and you know, people have talked about the different battles they face, and it's not just the ones going through the mental health issues. Sometimes it's people around them, friends and family. And I am missing home. My boys are missing me. Theo, 2-year-old, he's asking every night, "Where's Dada? Where's Dada?" And that's hard to hear, especially when I'm staying somewhere overnight with no phone signal and I can't see his little face on video messenger. And Robin, the 5-year-old, he's missing me. He's a bit more camera shy, a bit more into his Lego or whatever he's doing at the time. But when Mrs. Battlewalk asks him, "Are you missing Daddy?" and he says yes, and then asks, "Well, what are you missing? Is it playing Lego or nice food he's cooking?" And he says, "No, it's Daddy Cuddles." And 2 weeks away from home, I'm not getting to speak to them yesterday evening or this morning, and starting to feel it a bit more. So the end's in sight, and all the supporting comments I've had from people, all the well dones, all the encouragement, been absolutely fantastic. And even on these lonely stretches, it's normally quite busy responding to all the social media comments and posts and things, but it's absolutely lovely and it does keep me going. But some days there's no place like home.
On your walk, you are often joined by people randomly turning up. "Hello, I'm a Viking," and sometimes you were on your own quite a bit.
It was quite funny because, yes, people did join us along the way. I had a couple of hours with them in the morning. I was hearing lots about their issues, their mental health, their stories. They might have lost somebody. I had people who had lost a brother recently to suicide. I had people who'd been through stuff themselves and had some narrow escapes. I had people in the military, people in the fire service, all felt motivated for some reason or another to come and do this little bit of a pilgrimage almost. You know, for some people, walking alongside me for 15 miles, for them, that was their own challenge. It meant something more to them. It was a tribute to somebody or something like that. So lots and lots of different stories. And it gave me loads and loads of material by 12:05 to talk about these issues that were cropping up. And all through the walk, I don't think there was one single time when I had a script, a particular idea for 12:05, until something just popped up in front of me. Somebody just appeared and told me their stuff. And it covered such a broad range of things. It really went to show how so many people suffer with these problems and how normal it is to be struggling. If you just start talking about your own mental health or mental health issues in generally, it's so permissive. It gives people that opportunity. It's like letting the lid off. You're not changing the contents of the box, but you're just letting a bit of pressure out, hearing these stories, these messages about these interesting and really kind and wonderful people and supporting each other. They were then messaging each other with bits of support and suggestions and helpful
wonderful
ideas.
That's one thing that struck me on the little bit that I joined in on, Lewis, was I really thought, does he want people to come with him? Because from the outside looking in, it felt like this is one man's mission to make it to Hastings in 3 weeks. He's challenging himself, and he's going to come out with enlightenment about things in his life that he needs help. But actually, on a day-to-day basis, what you were doing was checking that everyone else on the walk was okay. Are you okay, Jen? How have you got blisters? Oh, you've got 10 blisters. You know, it's like, can we just take 5 minutes? Where's Steve? Where's Steve?
Where's Steve? That was a common theme, wasn't it?
So Gillian's walking too fast. Slow down. And that was our day in a nutshell. Mind the horses. There we are. That's it.
It was like being a shepherd somewhat, but
it really struck me how you were caring for other people's mental health all throughout the day, and how one of the ways maybe that you helped yourself cope with your own issues, not only reaching out and talking about it, but it made you aware that no matter what mask people put on in front, you know, what is going on behind there. And you were very, very good, I thought, at checking up on other people throughout the whole day, so much so that I thought, just chill out a minute, let's just have a drink, let's just, you know.
Yeah, it was it became dangerous at one point, because I was desperately catching up to people back and forth. I startled the horses at one point running along in my armor. But it's kind of become a bit of a thing now, where I'm, even after the walk, long after the walk, I'm still going for walks by myself, because it's the only exercise I can do in the absence of any fighting. People tend to come along, and we do a sort of walk and talk thing anyway. So it's not, you know, it's not therapy or anything like that, but it's that sort of peer support. It's become a thing, and it really does help me as well. Like you said, it's kind of part of me now. It's something I enjoy, and it's something I feel I can give quite easily. And yeah, it was stressful during the walk when there were 15 people on a given day, all strung out. I know it was COVID's distance and everything.
Yes.
But going back and forth, it was, you know, I'm worrying about have I replied to people who sent a message while I'm doing this, because they've got a really heartbreaking story.
Oh, yes. Well, and also because you didn't want you hated it when you missed someone once, and he was going, oh no, I brought it up. Oh no.
That had a nice ending, because I caught the mum at one point, and she walked a brief way with me and her dogs, but the child was at school. The morning after the walk finished, I was sitting in Battle in a hotel, and we arranged that I could do a video call with the little girl. So it ended happily in the end. Anyway, she was happy enough.
Oh, good.
But yeah, that's an interesting element, the running back and forth, and it did make it more tiring. It was quite stressful. It's a bit like when you have your own birthday party, you want to make sure everyone else is having a good time.
Yeah, what's all that about? Yes. Yeah.
But there were other days when I was alone, and it gave me, you know, the contrast was quite nice. There were days being on my own felt like a day off. There were days when being on my own felt lonely, and I wish there was somebody else there. There were days when it was, you know, it was a good chance to reflect, and it was my own personal challenge. I went inward, and it was nice to be able to do that. But then there were days when having these things to do, these people to help and take care of, or just to chat to, when 15 miles just felt like 3.
Yeah.
You know, it just flew by. I hadn't realized quite how far I'd walked, because the conversation was so interesting, and the people were so nice, and it just kept me really busy.
And there was one point during the walk when you said, oh, you guys never met before, because us reenactors were like, no, you just say, well, that's nice. What a tunic. Oh, what did you? Oh, and then before you know it, you are old pals who've been reenacting together for 15 years, but you've just met.
It's a small world as well. You often find that, you know, it's not 6 degrees of separation. It's about 2.5.
Yeah.
You know, everyone knows somebody who knows somebody. But it has that.
Especially in Norfolk, Lewis, especially in Norfolk.
Well, the Northeast as well. We're sort of, you know, we've got a couple of big cities, but we're quite spaced out. So, you know, you either know one set of people or another.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really does have that sort of sense of community. It's sort of a license to get talking to people, isn't it?
Absolutely. It also struck me last night when I was thinking about the sort of things we were going to talk about today, how your walk in a way is reflection. You're going to like this.
is like a microcosm of life, exactly what you were just saying. So there are periods in your life when it's so busy and so exciting and things are going on all the time and you're buzzing, and other periods where you are on your own and you are reflective and maybe you're feeling a bit lonely, but you keep moving forwards, because the next day something else will happen, something different will happen, and also those unexpected things that might happen, for the good or the bad, but it's just the fact that you keep putting that one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a really good analogy. Yeah, and you know, sometimes it's a slog,
Yes.
and other times you just sort of buoyed along by other people or by something fun that's happening. The last day of the walk was 28 miles. So it was
Wow.
almost double what we did through the fence. And it was raining. And of course, it was such a long day. It was dark by the time I got anywhere near the finish line. And I was, you know, I was dead on my feet after about 24 miles. And suddenly, like, it was like the cavalry arrived. There was a policeman who had been in touch on Facebook, and he'd got a police escort arranged and closed the roads. All these other reenactors appeared. And as we got nearer and nearer to the town of Battle, there were just hundreds of people lining the streets. I mean, they're all spaced out sensibly, of course, but they were, you know, they'd been waiting hours in the rain, in the dark, with their kids, young kids, some of them. And, you know, the surprise of all these hundreds of people all cheering and handing me bottles of beer and stuff like that just carried us along. I was buzzing by the end. I could have done the whole thing again. You get those moments in your life, don't you, when you just get a boost from an unexpected source and it carries you along through some of the slogs. And to some extent, that's kind of what the walk's done for me as well, is it's provided a big boost, possibly a really important time with lockdown and young kids and all the struggle of homeschooling. You know, I can reflect on it. I can do the walk and talk thing with other friends as my permitted exercise. This unexpected boost, I didn't expect any of those things to happen during the walk. I kind of imagined it would be a bit solitary. But those boosts have kind of got a far-reaching effect, and I think that will be something in later years as well. Throughout the whole time, I can look back, and when I need a boost, I can just reflect on the walk.
Wonderful. What is next? Is there another walk in the plan? So top secret things afoot?
There might be something top secret afoot. It's so top secret I can't tell you yet.
Okay, no problem.
It has a historical flavour. There may be some walking elements. We'll see. I've had some approaches from press and things for other bits and pieces as well, and people keep nagging me, "Oh, you should write a book about your experiences." I just can't decide, if I were to write it and if it were any good, what section of Waterstones would I put it in? You know, is it about mental health? Is it you know, is it outdoors? Is it history? What is it? It's a weird combination. I think it'll have to be one of those little 20-page gift books on the till.
Or grab as you go out. Did you want a complimentary Lewis Kirk blind?
Yeah. Earrings and stuff, you know.
No, definitely in like a biography of the North, something like that.
Yeah, it's such a weird combination. I mean, there's even bits of like natural navigation, how to find direction from trees and leaves and stuff. You know.
Yeah, I read your post on that the other day. That was really interesting. I learned something, because in Norfolk it's very like that, very flat and open, and your trees on the boundaries of fields now and then, all windswept and stuff.
Yeah, they'll give you some clues and what plants grow where, and what farmers do. You know, farmers are not daft. They plant things in certain places for certain conditions, and that can tell you something about direction and soil types and whether it'll be boggy underfoot or whether it's safe to go there. One of the interesting bits with flat landscapes, talking about Norfolk and discovered this in Lincolnshire, where you're in places you're below sea level.
Yeah.
You don't have many landmarks because you can't see beyond the next hedge, because there's no contour to the landscape. You can't see over the hedge and up a hillside to get some kind of direction. So apparently, and I don't know if this is one of those sort of long-held urban myth type things, but all the church spires in parts of Lincolnshire are deliberately shaped so that you can see 3 different churches at any one time, and you can triangulate where you are. I'd love to look into that a bit more and find out if that's true, and find out if there's anything clever like that happened in Norfolk and other places I walked.
There are some places in Norfolk where, I mean, there are a lot of churches in Norfolk, and famously Norwich has a pub for every day of the year and a church for every week, or something like that in Norfolk. A lot of round towered
old churches as well, with the flint on the outside because of the coast.
In your flat landscape where you are, that just helps you navigate when you've been to too many of those pubs. Just gives you a landmark you can see from a distance over the hedges.
And how are the injuries bearing up, Lewis? So you talked about your knees during the walk. How's your knees?
You know, the sort of the muscle that I gained in my legs from doing all the training really helped. And now that I can't do as much walking, my knees are really starting to hurt.
Oh no.
But again, I think that's, you know, because the muscles that are built up from fighting are sort of withering away, probably. Weirdly, you know, I've been having trouble with blisters. I didn't get any blisters on the whole 310-mile walk, and lately I'm getting blisters again. So I don't know what that's about. I can't decide if the walk has helped me feel younger because it sort of got me a bit fitter and it's built up muscle, or whether, you know, it's all going to come crashing down over the next year and I'm going to feel decrepit.
I've just turned a big 40, and one of my friends texted me, "Happy birthday, look after your knees." And the next day I woke up with knee pain and I thought, oh my God, they're right. They're right, over 40.
Yeah.
What's going on? So yeah. Thank you very much, Lewis, for your inspirational battle book, and I'm looking forward to where you go next with this. If anyone wants to look at your battle walk, there's a Facebook page, and that's also linked to the Man Health charity that you supported.
Yeah, the Facebook page, 1066 Battle Walk, and I'm still putting posts on as and when I think I've got something relevant to mental health or walking or the history elements. So the page is still very much alive. There is a link. I don't think there's a link to the same fundraising pot anymore, but you can find a link to the Man Health website if you're interested in what they do or you want to fundraise or donate or anything. I'm still occasionally getting people saying, I've got a good idea to sort of top up some funding. You know, there's ideas coming forward. So very open to all of that.
Awesome.
So give it a like and a follow. It's, you know, there's everything there from natural navigation, as we've said, to mental health tips and tricks, to just interesting stuff that I encounter now in this mental health world.
And the perks of leg wraps.
Leg wraps, absolutely. 5-star reviews, are plenty.
Meet the makers. I'm joined by Elizabeth Yagawa Hadje. You might know her as the Wild Wool Shepherdess. And we're going to talk a little bit about sheep, Elizabeth.
Good, my favourite subject.
Fantastic. I've just discovered a love of sheep and how much the smell is actually something you can grow to love.
I've actually always been fine with it. I don't think I've ever had a problem with the smell of it, but some people really do. Yeah.
And I'm finding as well, working with wool and fleeces on your hands become ever so soft, and it's good.
Yeah, they do. It's the lanolin in it.
So when were you first starting to work with sheep?
I always say that it found me. I wasn't born in a farm, wasn't born into a farming family. I grew up in a little pit village in Nottinghamshire, and my mum brought me and 4 kids up, and you know, that just wasn't on the radar at all. I did theatre arts, actually. I did a degree in theatre arts, which is a bit random. I've been a dancer my whole life, and then I had a little gardening business. And then I had my son, Harry, and so we're up here in Nottinghamshire, and I kind of wanted to find a way where I could homeschool him and still get back to what I love, because I've always loved just nature. I've never survived well indoors, so I went and did countryside management at college, and I was 30 then when I did that, so I was kind of late on. And then through that I fell into this little lambing section, and I just did really well at it, and I just loved it so much. I volunteered for every shift going, and through that I got to meet the shepherd from the Wildlife Trust. So I just kind of begged her to volunteer with her. And so like 2 years later, I'd been volunteering with her for quite a while, juggling, kind of looking after Harry at the same time. And they employed me as the shepherd alongside her. And so I worked with the Wildlife Trust. We had about 800 sheep, and we'd graze all the different nature reserves across Nottinghamshire.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was called the flying flock, because we'd have to keep moving them across the whole county for conservation grazing. And so from then on, I actually decided that I wanted to do so much myself, and I was quite limited at the Wildlife Trust. So I basically just kind of leapt into contract shepherding myself. I knew enough skills, so I decided to contract my work out, my skills out, looking after sheep to different farms around the country. And then I set up Wild Wool Shepherdess based on the fact that the wool at the Wildlife Trust was just wasted. We never did anything with it. And we had the Herdwick sheep, and Herdwicks are seen to be so undervalued because their fleece is quite coarse, and it's only really used for carpets. So I don't know if you know too much about the Herdwick sheep, but the Herdwick is one of our oldest ancient breeds.
Yes, because that's all part of where I'm going with my Vike stuff.
Yeah. Well, Herdwick means in Old Norse means sheep pasture, and and they're such tough animals. I mean, they have to be up in the hills in Cumbria, and they're just beautiful as well. They're just such characters, real tough animals, but they're kind of prehistoric, and that's what I liked about them. So I never have worked with commercial sheep. I don't really like commercial sheep because they've had a lot of their character bred out of them, and they're really just for mass farming. And I'm not based on that. I'm based on my primitive breeds, so native breeds. I have so moving quickly, I basically just started up my own flock of these breeds for conservation grazing still, but mostly for their wool, because I just fell in love with the ancient breeds of Shetland and Icelandic and Borare, Manx. My sheep are all a mix of the heritage breeds that we have in this country still.
And that's what I'm really enjoying discovering is, and then so I can work with something that someone has spun. The next thing is to spin my own, and I'm a bit, we're getting there. It's very difficult. There's something about working with a sheep that has been around for hundreds of years, thousands of years, that just makes you feel more in touch with where you come from. And I guess that's why I do reenactment and stuff as well. So that leads us on to, I really love your sustainability aspects of your work. You've just put on your Facebook page your Tree Sisters project that you're following, contributing towards.
Well, I actually started off myself. So since I started Wild Wool Shepherdess, I made the commitment that I was going to plant trees to offset any carbon that I would kind of use within my business, because a lot of my sales go abroad, so they go mostly to America, Canada, Norway. But not only that, I wanted it's something to do with my ethics, my ethos about above everything, it's caring for the earth. So I don't just have a load of sheep and just blanket graze everywhere. I'm very conscious and aware of being regenerative and grazing for the benefit of nature, farming with nature. So I kind of have different structures of grazing sometimes of the year. I aftermath graze after the hay cut, and I mob graze, so you're leaving sections of grass for the wildflowers. The tree thing was like, I liked planting trees, but I didn't feel like I was having much of an impact. So I joined the Tree Sisters Sold Trees program, which means that I give a percentage of every sale that I make to them to plant more trees worldwide. A lot of my packaging, well, all my packaging is non-plastic. Everything I do is like handwritten, handmade. I don't go to big companies to get big labels, or just make everything. So everything is like you would have done a few hundred years ago, if not more. So for me, the essence of who I am, and this is what I try to bring into my business, is the fact that I'm an old soul, and I feel a little bit alien in this world because I think differently. I feel very deeply with our ancestors and with our past and with our ancient history. I feel like I'm still in that time, but I'm trying to survive in very modern times. So everything I do tries to take me back to that feeling of the wild, where we used to survive and we used to make everything and create everything with our hands. And that's why I think I fell in love with wool, like you do, because there isn't much that links us back to those heritage crafts, the things that we did, our ancestors did to survive and to thrive. Every day, like, I'm trying to make to earn a living, but I don't want to do that. I want to make my own things. I have so many ideas of, I want to just create a weighted wart plume like they did.
Oh yes, wonderful.
Fantastic, yeah.
Things like that. And I'd love to do what you do, the nail binding as well. I mean, I
Gosh,
don't know how to do that.
I'll come and teach you one day, Elizabeth, because I'm welling up because I feel like I feel really connected to your ethos there, and I think that doing reenactment is a way into that. And as much as it is just dressing up to maybe that the public might see it, but to us, we're trying to live as authentically as possible for that weekend. We're cooking on a fire. A lot of people sleep in a canvas tent in authentic bedding. I'm a bit old for that. I have a van and it's very comfortable and nice. But I have to stand on my feet and talk to people for 8 hours a day, so that's my excuse. But yeah, you feel connected to something, and time really just it slows down, but it goes really fast at the same time. The things that you fill your time with at home during lockdown, checking your phone or going on Zoom or whatever you're doing, or watching Netflix, when you can't do that, suddenly it just doesn't matter anymore. Your attention is taken away and you can really focus on something. And I think that crafting in particular during lockdown, people have found a way of helping themselves get a bit of mindfulness and get in touch with letting things go a little bit and refocusing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just realizing what's important, and all of this peripheral stuff just isn't, it's just about the basics of relationships and family and the things that we can make. People are making a lot more now, aren't they? Like they have time to make things.
What's really interesting as well, seeing some of the things that you do, is you're not scared of the grisly side of nature. What I mean by that is the pheasants, Elizabeth.
What, you mean the ones that I pick up off the side of the road and eat?
I mean them, yes, those are the ones, yeah.
Well, why waste them? I mean,
Absolutely. And the same happens with when a tree gets felled in our forest. It has to be felled, first of all. It's not just taken for no reason. It could be dangerous, diseased, gonna take down other trees or workshop spaces when it falls. So so some of it's taken for firewood. There's a chainsaw wood carver, and then I love all the little branches and I burn runes into them and stuff. So it goes to about 3 or 4 different people, one tree, and I just absolutely love that kind of making use of everything that you can.
Absolutely. Well, I love what you do. I'd love to be part of those kind of reenactments. I mean, like, I've just never known anyone. I've never really known how you do it. But the Uphelly whatever it is, on Shetland, I tried to go there a couple of times. My friend lives up there, and I thought about like trying to offer my skills for making wool collars and stuff for like the bands and the groups and that. I'd love to do that.
Have you heard of the Varafelder? Is a Viking cloak that was woven on a warp-weighted loom. Yeah, go on.
I know what you mean. I just looked into it this week, but I didn't recognise the name.
Varafelder. My friend Jane has made one, and I've done an interview with her on her making it on her loom and stuff.
I'd love to hear that, because that was my project for doing the weighted warp loom, because I needed to make a mesh in order to do the Varafelder. That was something that I've had in my head that I want to do myself for me.
Awesome. There we are. Connections. So, can we please talk about Yagawa?
Oh, that was a good attempt though. Yagawa Hadje. Basically, it means she paddles along. From when I was a child, I have no idea why, but I had a deep love with the native peoples of Turtle Island, which is America, and I just used to read about them, and I think it was because of the way that they lived so close to nature. And I was that kind of child, but I was never nurtured as that kind of child. I just kind of had to dampen down that fire and that I had inside of me, of that kind of spirit. And roll forward like 30 years, then I happened to come across, I don't even know how it happened. I watched a small YouTube video of the Longhouse of the Gunyungahaga people, which is basically, the Gunyungahaga are the Mohawk people, which live in Canada. And I wrote them an email, and I just blurted out all of this stuff to them to say, this is how I felt, this is, anyway, they invited me to be part of their group you know, where you listen into their teachings, you know, and all of their kind of work and their ceremony and everything. So then they were having this recital of something called the Great Law of Peace, which is the oldest constitution in history. And it's a very long story, that is, but basically it's a particular ceremony. It's a law that's written about establishing peace within matrilineal law. So it's all to do with female line. So the women are in authority. It's always been like that with the native people. And it's just incredible. It's so I basically just said, right, I'm coming. So I booked a flight, I got someone to look after my sheep, and I went for 3 weeks and stayed at the Longhouse. The Longhouse is not necessarily a building now, it's kind of just part of the community, and stayed with several women, and we all learnt this recital of the Great Law of Peace. And there I met one of the elders, and he took me under his wing, and he basically named me, and he adopted me into the nation. And that hasn't happened. An English woman hasn't been adopted to into the Gunyungahaga Nation for, he thinks, a few hundred years, because the last time that happened was when we British invaded the Americas, and the British women were taken, and sometimes they were captured by the native people. And then when it came for the English women to leave the native people, say they were recaptured by the British, they didn't want to go. They never wanted to go back to the English. They loved their life with the native people. Yes. And so the native people adopted them and stayed there, because their life there was so much better than it was back home underneath, you know, patriarchy and Britain. So that for me was just mind-blowing. And now I'm learning their language, and you know, I speak with Waigiru, who's my elder, like pretty much every day. But the main reason I went across as well was I tanned a buffalo hide to take to them as a gift. That's the biggest, most mammoth thing I've ever done in my life, was to tan a buffalo hide by hand myself.
Yes.
And that was to try and bring healing and remedy between the nations, because we also massacred most of their buffalo to extinction when we tried to eradicate the native peoples. So it was kind of like my spiritual way of trying to bring a bit of healing from the English, and as a woman as well, to bridge that gap. So it's all quite deep and quite spiritual, but yeah. that's how I got my name. Yeah. And it means she paddles along. True for me. And he didn't even know me, but I'm constantly moving upstream, paddling against everyone else almost that's going the other way. I'm always moving, something new. I never stay still in one place for very long. And I'm finding that all of a sudden over the last year, I'm connecting very deeply to the Viking era. So
what I'm finding as well is, once you start opening yourself up to getting back in touch with nature and grounding yourself in it, and heritage crafting is something that is linked to the land.
Yeah, and the same with the things like, that's what I mean. I get quite a lot of interest because of the fact that I do everything full circle. So if one of them dies, which you've probably seen, you know, what would normally happen in a farm, because we're so disconnected, we'd send it off and chuck it in a skip or to the abattoir or something like that. But I skin everything myself. So even the ones that I adore, that I love, my little yarn that died, I just got on with it straight away. And I it's like a disconnection, but it's an absolute honouring in the fact that I have skinned him, and then I will tan his hide with his brain and use the sinew and use everything in his body to create the leather that makes his hide, and it's not wasted. And you know, I kept so much of him, even his little ball sack, which I've made into a purse.
Oh no. I love that.
I actually have.
I love that.
You know, like what I mean, but these are the things, like nothing would have been wasted. I do show lots of love and care, and I'm a bit fussy with them, but at the same time I'm brutal in that I know what's required when it comes to the end of their life. And that, more than anything, just deeply connects me to that ancestral way of living.
Interesting you were saying about using everything, because it instantly struck to my mind, anyone who's a crafter Never throws anything away. Ooh,
That's so
you
true.
can't. You can't. You might need that and that.
Yeah.
I've got more craft stuff than actual stuff. True story.
So true.
I need a bigger workshop than living space. But so I did see that last year before all the pestilence hit. You were looking at doing some sort of groups and retreats.
Yeah. Funny, I was just looking at that. Was the writing that I'd done about that, my vision, Feroc. What I really want to do, what I wanted to do last year was to go and live out wild for the summer with my animals and set up either a bell tent or a yurt or some kind of just small dwelling. Because I did it with my lambs. I lived out with my lambs when they were lambing, and just cooked my dinner on the fire every night and literally just lived out. And I wanted to do it long term to see if I could do it, but also to show other people how to do it and how, that it's possible. Just something where you're practicing traditional crafts, you're living very kind of originally, and you're also having women and bringing them back to their heritage as well. So like, I just need a bit of land to be able to build a cob house or or something like that, and then have women come, learn, get deeply embedded in the earth again, learn all these beautiful crafts, have loads of craft makers there and doing stuff, and then they'll never leave, and we'll build a massive community. It'll just grow and grow, and we'll take over the world.
Hey, I'm in. Seriously,
I'm deadly serious.
I am deadly serious. I think there's a moment happening here. Seriously though, I know I
act on it. Sounds bang on.
Sit round the fireside, tell you, and mead, innit?
Oh yeah, innit?
That has been lovely. Thank you so much for your time.
Great. No, you're welcome. I loved it. It was great. Really enjoyed it. So nice to talk to somebody else who gets me and gets it. Like you're just it's quite rare to find people that kind of really understand what you're getting at.
Another moment. Contemplation Corner.
Hello and welcome to Contemplation Corner. My name is Adam and I'm a professional hypnotherapist and creator of Avalon Magic. I'm also a priest of Avalon, witch and psychic medium. I will be following the Great Wheel of the Year with you, giving you some information and helpful hints at how you can mark the seasons. So today's thoughts are going to be focused around the festival of Ostara. I will be discussing how we celebrate Ostara within the Avalonian goddess tradition, and then also talk a little about how other Wiccans and neo-pagans celebrate. I will also be talking about some ideas of how you can celebrate and connect with the season. The Wheel of the Year has turned once again. Ostara is celebrated around the 21st to 22nd of March each year. It is the time of spring equinox, of balanced day and night. The sun rises directly in the east and sets directly in the west. At Ostara, animal and bird life are preparing to breed, searching for their partners, and birds begin to migrate back to these shores after the long winter months. Spring flowers such as the daffodil are blooming. All life, including us human beings, are preparing for the active half of the year, starting to bring all that we have dreamed, all of our hopes, from during the winter months into manifestation. Life is reawakening within the earth. Ostara is named after the goddess of spring, Estrae, or Ostara, who is a West Germanic goddess. This is the time of balance, a time to find balance in our own lives, whatever this means to us personally. A time to look forward to the longer days, the warmer weather, the fecundity of all kinds. There is no greater symbol of Ostara than the much-loved egg. Both symbolic and actual during this festival, much of nature is becoming fertile. To quote a mantra from Glennie Kindred's book about the seasonal festivals, I am the egg, potent power protected. I am the egg, potent power protected. Very powerful. The Easter bunny was once the hare of Ostara, hares always being associated and sacred to the goddess. Indeed, Boudica would let loose a hare before battle in the goddess Andred's name, and would divine and plan how to do battle depending on the course that this hare went. And of course it was said in the Middle Ages that witches had the ability to change themselves into hares as well as other creatures. A very magical animal indeed. Within the indigenous Wheel of Britannia, the goddess Arta is worshipped and called upon during Ostara celebrations. She is the goddess of fire, unlike other neo-pagan belief systems that celebrate and invoke the element of air at this time. She is the fire of the sun, the inner fire of the sun, the molten fire of Mother Earth, and of course the fires of inspiration, passion, drive, love and sexuality, which comes to fullness at Beltane. She is the fire that dwells within every heart, her very essence alive in each of us. She comes to us at this liminal time of the year where night and day are equal, dancing through the meadows full of life and potential, full of inner passion, bringing with her her sacred animals, the hare, the bear, the green woodpecker, and the cat. She is the Lady of Spring, and she is Bear Goddess, Arta, great she-bear of the starry heavens. She emerges from her slumber deep within Earth Mother's cave, coming into the clear sun of spring at this time. She is the awakening, a new beginning, still maiden but moving into her sexual phase, ready for the great marriage at Beltane. She danced around her birch trees and the alders, which are sacred to this time of year. We also honour no lover of fire, who not only ignites in us the flames of transformation, inspiration and love, but also burns away all that no longer serves us or her. Within other pagan disciplines, Ostara invokes the element of air, of intellect and learning, of the breath. The towers of the watchtowers of the east are called upon, or the hawk of dawn soaring in the pure blue air. And of course it is from Norse mythology that we have the sacred hare bringing or laying the eggs. However, no matter what tradition we each individually reside within, the motives and the magic is universal, that being hope, fertility, spring, sun, balance, hares, eggs, spring flowers and foliage, creativity, manifestation, and the earth continuing to awaken. So in our modern world, especially within the current circumstances, how can we more deeply connect to the wheel and to the season? I always say the best way to connect with both the season and the elements is to walk in nature. Leave the car at home and walk, get out. You will not connect at a deep level without walking the landscape, feeling the heat of the sun on the face, or chilling in the air at dusk, or the spring showers on the head. Walking and spending time in nature really is a must. And at the same time as connecting, each of us has a role to play in healing the earth. On our walks, if we see litter, we should pick this up. If we see an injured animal, we should get help or nurse it. With each step we take, we should envisage stars of healing coming from our feet and penetrating the earth. Doing these small things together will have such a huge impact on our world, which needs our love, healing, and deepest respect. She is our mother. We must take care of her. It is in this way that real magic is created. Of course, we can each create sacred rituals for ourselves or celebrate together as current restrictions allow. Zoom has become very popular for online ceremonies of all kinds and really is a fantastic way to facilitate and to manifest. Spend time reawakening your own creativity. Perhaps hard boil and paint eggs for a stara. Spend time concentrating on how you can live a more balanced life. Meditate on all these things. Adopt a positive mantra to assist you. Are you working more than you're enjoying life? How can you balance this? Are you spending too much time procrastinating? How can you balance this out so that you have that drive to live and to achieve again? Create an outdoor or indoor altar and dedicate it to a stara or arta, offering gifts and creating beautiful sacred space. Offer painted eggs to her, pray, re-energize and meditate at your altar. Burn your favourite incense here, mark the occasion however you wish to, but do try to mark it. Write a springtime poem, gain inspiration and nourishment from nature. Begin to manifest your hopes and dreams. Use a guided visualization to meet the goddess of spring for healing and guidance. However you choose to celebrate, whether it is with your family, friends or on your own, enjoy the energies this season holds. Above all else, stay safe and follow governmental guidance. It's been really nice talking to you. I wish you every blessing at this time, and I look forward to welcoming you to my monthly divination forecast at full moon. Blessed be.
In next week's episode, I talk with Carol and Gary from Puppet Vikings.
It's a chance to kind of go beyond the Hollywood version you see on TV and find out more about the reality of Viking life.
In Compelling Chronicles, the tale of St. Oswald from Alan of Woden's Hearth.
This story begins aboard a ship on a misty morning. But this is no Viking longship full of raiding warriors. This ship was carrying passengers, including a group of children huddled together for warmth.
And I talk with Caleb from Project Broadaxe on his researching across time periods and reenactment in America.
There was no American equivalent to anybody doing any of the research. So everything I did I had to go to sources in Germany and Sweden and the UK and places like that.
You've been listening to a Drakos Dottir podcast for entertainment purposes. A massive thank you to all my guests today. All music for the podcast series provided by the amazing Dark Bardess. Find her on YouTube. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your company next time.